Hey fam, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back with another Big Love Season 5 review. This is episode 7, Till Death Do Us Part. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button as we jump into this. One thing that I noticed throughout this episode is it's clear to me that the authorities are getting ready to take Bill down. We see them visit Senator Barnes, and we see them looking at footage of Margene, and we see that Heather at some point has certain discussions with people of power, and it makes me wonder what actually got this ball rolling. Was it Heather? Was it Senator Barnes? Was it the footage they saw? Was it Heather's father? Like, what happened here? It's only a matter of time before Bill gets charged. My question is, out of all the wives, why did they take Barb? Why not Margene? Why not even take Bill? Go ahead, as I said, hit that like button. Let's begin. So the episode opens with Barb clipping coupons while everyone else is at church. The family returns and you can feel the awkwardness in the air. Nikki and Bill hate that Barb is not coming to church. Nikki, at some point in the episode, calls it embarrassing. And as I hear her say this, it just reminds me how often in these polygamous families that a lot of times they're more concerned about what other people think of them, the optics of it all, rather than what's going on with their family, rather than how Barb is truly feeling. So Nikki is looking at footage of Margie's pep rally and she is annoyed. She calls it tacky. I think that more than anything that Nikki is jealous. I think Nikki's jealous of both of the women. She just has a funny way of showing it. She feels like Margene's rally wasn't about the kids at all, but it was about Margie and her business instead. And Margie's like, I can't help what it is that they show. Like, kids were there, kids were discussed, but I can't control what the news shows us. So on the footage, Margene is speaking on how young she was when she got married to Bill, and how often she found herself wanting to run away, but how awesome Barb was for her, and how great it is for her kids to have so many mothers. And we later see I believe it's the feds looking at this same clip. Bill comes in the house with the marriage license. He says, look, we're all set for Wednesday. Justice of the Peace will do it. And Lee has the adoption papers. Nikki is like, how should I sign them? Should I sign them as Grant or should I sign them as Henriksen? And Bill's like, it's up to you. Sign them whatever way you want. If you do decide that you're gonna sign it Henriksen, there will just be two Mrs. Henriksens. Because we're reminded that Barb has this name. He said, but really, if you think about it, I've been already living with three. So he's trying not to make it seem like it's a big deal. But Nikki very much so feels like this is a big deal. Nikki could claim all she wants to that it's paper this and paper that. Her actions show otherwise. Nikki has decided that she should have a real wedding. At first, Bill is against it, but after some persuasion, Bill tells her that they can do that as long as it doesn't offend anyone. So Nikki's like, you mean Barb? And he's like, yeah. This entire situation, in my opinion, comes across as insensitive, especially since this is only supposed to be done for the sake of adoption. It very much so reminded me of Sister Wives and the Browns and that season that the adoption thing came on, and the different emotions that the wives felt, and how it started to be a thing where Robin was ready to make it a bigger deal and Cody kind of shut it down. And in watching this, even though I don't care for Cody, I see why he kind of shut it down, because it rubs me the wrong way that you're talking paper marriage this and paper marriage that, yet you're making it more than a paper marriage. So not only does she want a real wedding with guests and a reception, but she wants a new dress too, because it's her special day. And she keeps reminding us throughout the episode that it's her special day. Bill tells Nikki that they have to talk to Barb about the dress and everything else, that they need to be sensitive to her feelings. To my surprise, Nikki later tells her about the dress, and Barb actually offers to pay for it. I was shocked. She goes as far as giving Nikki her own personal credit card. So it's Barb's credit card, and she gives it to Nikki and tells her that she should buy the dress on her. Nikki thinks that it is very kind of her and she accepts it. But that's not enough for Nikki. This is when Nikki brings up the whole reception idea too. I want to know where they're getting the money to do all of this from, especially if business is down, yet you're about to pay for a dress and flowers and a reception. And I just feel like it's not being wise. So you can tell Barb is bothered by her asking for a reception, especially because the wedding is scheduled to be 3 days away. Nikki tells her that Bill said, to ask her because he's deeply concerned about the ability of the family to move forward. The way that Nikki has this way of manipulating situations and changing up people's words or adding things or saying things that people didn't even say, and she does it whenever she can, and she actually gets a rise out of people, is so odd to me. This is supposed to be a regular paper marriage, and the spiritual marriage is supposed to mean so much more, yet we're doing all these other things. At first, we find out Bill is against it, especially with the climate that they're in, and not knowing what's gonna come, but he does agree to the reception once Barb says like she wants Nikki to have her special day and she thinks that they should do it. Barb is a better woman than me, because here you are having to divorce this man in order for this woman to supposedly legally be able to adopt a child that is already hers. And I just feel like it's pointless because Cara Lynn is going to be legal in a few years. So is this even really necessary when you have, a 15 or a 16-year-old? I don't think it is, especially because at certain ages, they do take what the teenager wants into consideration. I just feel like this was Nikki's end. So here you are, Nikki, about to rub it in Barb's face even more that you are going to be the legal wife. Barb, in my opinion, legitimately rises above in a way that I never could, because she's okay with it, or she presents as she's okay with it. So we see Bill and Barb kiss at the thought of this, and then they have makeup sex. Cara Lynn is playing house with her teacher. She lied and told Nikki that she has study group at the library, but she's at her teacher's house. Here's the thing. I got a question. Y'all tell me what you think. I'm not trying to assume anything, but I'm going to assume here. I think it's safe to assume that these two people, that the teacher who told Cara previously he was not willing to live with a woman until he was married, it looks to me like they've already done certain things that are illegal. And I'm talking about more than her coming to his house and kissing him. I'm talking about the fact that they look like they've had sex. Second thing that I notice is that she refers to Nikki as Nikki when she's talking to Greg. And I'm wondering if it's because she doesn't see her mother as a mom, or if it's because she's trying to be older, because when she's in front of Nikki, it's mama this and, mom that. And I just see her and I'm listening to her, even with the way that she alters her appearance when she's with him versus when she's at home. And I think that Cara Lynn takes after her mother in many ways. I think that she is playing this sweet and innocent role so she can get the things that she desires and so that she can continue to fool the people around her. She seems very confident when she's with, the older man, with her teacher, which you would think she wouldn't be so confident since she's supposed to be this young, naive girl. Around him, I put the compound girl is gone. She's showing some skin. Her hair is down and she's wearing a tank top while helping him make his bed. His shirt is open. They have a chemistry, yes, but when you think about it, it's kind of sick because she's a child. He's a grown behind man that I purposely feel like they got someone that looked like he wasn't his age because it doesn't look as pervy as the situation is, but the situation is very pervy. So Cara wants to go out with him. He and his mom are going to a play. He supposedly, excuse me, has 2 extra tickets. So he's gonna invite her and her mother. Where are these 2 tickets coming from, and why did he get 4 tickets to a play? I'm just wondering. So Kara asks Nikki, and Nikki agrees to go. She tells Kara that she thinks that her teacher has a little crush on her because she sees the way that he looks at her. She feels like his head will probably explode, but she's gonna invite him to the wedding. Nikki, that man isn't checking you. You may have been checking him at one point, but he's not looking for you. He's looking at your daughter. They arrive for the date, and Greg's mother, unlike Nikki, senses something there. And I say that because she looks at him as he's taking off Kara's coat, and you could tell that she's watching the interaction with her son and Carlin. I can't help but notice it's similar to the look that Margene has later on when she sees them together at the wedding. Okay, so I'm jumping around a lot, y'all. It's not going in exact order. Just follow me. If there's something that I leave out that you want to talk about, feel free to put it down below. Um, let's get on this whole Home Plus situation. So once again, Bill has been outmoved by Albie. It turns out that Albie has used the UEB funds to buy the building that Home Plus resides in, and he finds this out via fax, meaning Albie is now their landlord. So anything that goes on in that building, whether it be the price that they have to pay to rent each month, or whether it be things that go wrong like an AC unit or something like that, Don points out that they have to talk to Albie. Don is freaking out because Albie can do whatever he wants, and he does. As Don puts it, he has access to over $300 million. Even if they leave, he can chase them wherever he wants to. We find out later on that Albie raises the rent by 25%, telling Bill that 25% has to be a rough number, especially with the boycott. Does it incite you to throw in the towel? Move to another location, perhaps? Bill, of course, because he's always outmatched by Albie, gives his little veiled threats, talking about bringing it to the state and how they won't get food or food stamps and housing grants and things of that nature. But Albie is over the idle threats, and he points out to him that you've done this already. You've said this already. So it means nothing to him. Bill calls Albie out on being a shepherd that's laying with shepherds, or a shepherd that's laying with sheep. I think that's what he said. Can't remember how he put it. Either way, he's saying like you a guy that's laying with other guys. Albie chooses not to answer, but he's questioning Bill. Bill, to me, if you really wanted to bring up the fact that he has done some immoral things, I think that the time to have done that would have been a long time ago, not to keep it in your pocket and then try to use it against him now. Because I wouldn't be surprised if, like the book that I'm reading now with Warren Grant, that a lot of the people around were aware of his perversions. I wouldn't be surprised. And understand, I'm not saying that Albie is wrong for, loving a man or, falling in love with a man at one point. It's the things that he does while doing that. Like the whole thing with Verl creeps me out. The fact that you basically have him around there taking off his clothes and you put money in his hand when he does it, that's perversion. So Don wants to bail on Home Plus, but Bill, of course, wants to fight. He's talking about appealing to the UEB, which Don finds doing that is going to be a waste of time because the same men who are on the UEB are the same men that blindly followed Roman, and now they're blindly following Albie. Don says there's a church inspired boycott right now. Thousands of Mormons are shutting our stores. Not, how did he say it? Like they're shunning their stores. They're not going to their stores. We need to cash out while we still can. And of course, once again, Bill isn't trying to listen to his business partner. He says, no, what we do is we go to the UEB. Bill comes home and the wives know about the whole situation with Albie and the play that he's made. Nikki feels like they should just burn down the store and just leave him. with ashes. She tells him that she's been trying to get through to Juniper Creek, but nobody is answering. Everybody's phone is disconnected. He tells her that he's going to go up there himself. We see Bill and Nikki head out there. He goes to the UEB to try to get these men to be against Albie, talking about how Albie has used their ties for his own self-interest, like Bill himself hasn't done things for his own. It's just interesting to me. The irony is there, and how much Bill often doesn't notice or see the things that he does that's wrong, but can always see what somebody else does that's wrong. Bill isn't where he was however many seasons ago when they wanted him to take over. Now, Bill doesn't have any favor. In fact, most of the men up there now hate him, especially because some of them, as Albie points out, have lost their wives and their children because of Bill. He says safety net and his wives, I think his apostate wife, I think he's talking about Nikki, have caused problems for them. Albie says, Heavenly Father never meant for us to assimilate with Gentiles. Bill points out, Laura is doing well. You trying to dig, but Bill, you don't have the upper hand here. This man has millions of dollars behind him. Not 3 million, Don said 300 million. That's a lot of money. I just wonder what it's in, because is it a situation like what we're reading with Warren Jeffs, and how a lot of that money was actually in buildings and in homes and not actual money? Because it just, like, what are you going after here? Anyways, so he says that, Laura's doing well and the kids are in school, and he's trying to plead his case, but it's not working. He wants them to override Albie's bid on the property. That's when one of the guys there by the name of Rod says, your wife tricked my daughter away from her husband and her kids. I don't understand why it's being called tricked. Why isn't it that she simply no longer wanted to be a part of this life? I don't think she was tricked into anything. It was probably something that she thought she didn't want to do for a while. He continues, it comforts me, Bill Henriksen, that you will burn in hell. And Bill responds back to him and says, Albie has already led you there. Bill is shocked that they aren't on his side. We see Adeline and Nikki talk. This is when she finds out about the electronic situation. She tells her mom that he's cutting them off from the world. And of course, Adeline doesn't see it that way. She says with no TV and with no phones, everyone is working harder, that they'll be even more blessed. She tells her mom, look, I'm going to legally marry Bill and I want you to be there. And Adeline's like, that state marriage doesn't mean anything to me. We're obviously on separate paths. Don later tells Bill that he wants nothing to do with the Henriksen and Grant holy war, that he is out. I think Don has made a smart decision, but what does Don consider out? Because we see him later on at the wedding, which means you're still involved with him in one way or another. We see Verlin has become Albie's newest victim. After the whole confrontation with Bill on the phone, he hands him $100 and tells him to strip, but slowly, because it will make him feel better. It very much so is creepy, and it shows how desperate Verlin is. I don't know if Verlin is doing this solely for money, or if there is a part of Verlin that is actually someone who is attracted to men. But it's just the fact that you're basically prostituting yourself here to get $100 here and $50 there. It just, like, how much money have you gotten since you've been there? And have you actually saved it? Because we see Rhonda struggling. So what's going on here? So we see Nikki trying to get in contact with her mother. This is before the whole thing happened. She left her a message saying that she's concerned. She had tried to call 5 times before she actually went on the compound with Bill. This is what I'm talking about with my notes being out of order. And the reason why she couldn't get in contact was because Albie pulled a Warren Jeffs by trying to control the outside influences, saying that he eliminated phones because of sexting. which he's a hypocrite because here you are, got this naked man standing in your office giving him $1, but I guess there's nothing wrong with that. So we see Nikki try on her wedding dress in front of Margine. She looks beautiful. Margie's so excited. She wants to show Barb, so she runs out of the room to get her while Nikki looks at herself. I don't think Nikki did this for the right reasons, but there are times during this episode where I found myself being happy for Nikki because Nikki wanted a marriage. But I think that Nikki has this way of playing the part sometimes. And I don't feel like this is about her wanting the marriage for the sake of the daughter. I think Nikki always wanted a legal marriage. To me, it's kind of a power grab. Nikki went into this thinking things would change. I don't really think that it will because legally married or not, I honestly feel like Bill has a deep love for Barb. I think that he is actually in love with Barb. I think that he loves the other women, but not to the degree that he loves Barb. There's a bond there that they have that's different than the other wives, and it's not just because of time. So we see Heather go to talk to her bishop. They talk BYU, Heather's roommate that used to stink. And the bishop says, it's good that you said something to her because no one wants to date a smelly flower. Something about that made me cringe a little bit because a smelly flower, like, are you talking about down there? Or are you just calling women flowers? Anyways, they get to the good stuff. Ben and her missionary. So Heather lets the bishop know that she's confused because although she found herself initially liking the missionary and writing to him twice a week, she has found herself now not only falling for this other guy, which is Ben, but his family as well. And the energy changes immediately because at first he's like, yeah, that happens a lot of times with, you young ladies as the guys are out, you meet another suitor. And he doesn't seem as happy about it or as, enthusiastic about it when she mentions that the guy's family are polygamous. So he tells her, you know our beliefs. And Heather's like, yeah, I have my beliefs and I still have them. But, the other man, the gentleman that I've been seeing, even though his parents are polygamous, he doesn't know what he is. He's still trying to figure himself out, and I want to help him. So she mentions that she overheard something that she shouldn't have. And she's like, Bishop, they're a good family and they don't deserve to be shunned by the entire city. And the bishop was like, you heard something. Why don't you go ahead and tell me what that is? Perhaps you would feel better if you unburden yourself to me. We don't see her tell him about Margine, but the fact that you heard something or you overheard something, did you overhear something from your father or did you overhear something with Margine? I think it's very much so Argine, which means Heather may have gotten the ball rolling on what happened at the end of the episode. Heather has changed. She's still devout in her faith, but she now finds herself caring for Ben. She isn't as judgmental because of Ben and because of Sarah as she was in the beginning. She ends up showing up at the doorstep of the Henriksons. Ben opens the door. She tells him that she prayed and thought about it and she wants to be his girlfriend, that she was scared and confused. She sent her missionary a Dear John letter. They both smile and he kisses her. He invites her in for cocoa. Just like that, they're back together. It's cute. Then we get another another couple that are also having cocoa. That is Carolyn and her teacher. They're having cocoa at his house. And this time she's clearly in his robe or a robe. So she's made herself very comfortable in his home. She talks about, Nikki, calling her Nikki again, and how the rest of them are pretty sheltered, but she's not. She plans on being worldly someday with him, and they kiss. I said, all right, just further proof that the two of them have probably done something. Back to Ben. I wonder how him being with Heather is going to affect Rhonda, because we did see that Rhonda is broke and eating baby food. And she's excited about the fact that Ben came over the house with $100 worth of groceries. The girl thinks that Verlin is going to buy her a house and build a recording studio in it. And I just feel like that goes back to how naive she is and how much of denial she is in, and how Heather saying that she wonders if she's going to make it to even see 21 is really a thing, because Rhonda has no skills and a baby, and all she has at this point is going to work to dance on a pole, and she doesn't even seem to be making enough money from that to sustain herself. So he tells her that he's not going to be able to come by anymore. And he says this before him and Heather get together. Let me make that clear. But he does tell her that he's not going to be able to come by as much anymore. That they can't do what they did the other night, which I'm assuming is that they had sex. But he can still come by as a friend. She says she's okay with it. She gives him a kiss on the cheek. But knowing Rhonda, this is going to come back. And she's going to tell Heather something. So Margie is in her Goji Blast meetings at her house, bragging about their CEO and all the things that he's done, for third world countries and yada, yada, yo. He's reaching this place and he's reaching that place, yet y'all aren't. Everybody is looking around the room. As she's talking, she hands out DVDs that are supposed to let them see what's been going on. She tells everybody to talk about, what they've done this week. So everyone's going around the room talking about how many units they've sold this week and what their downline has increased by. And they're clapping for each other. It's Pam's turn, and Carl walks in. Carl tells Pam they are leaving. Margine tries to interfere, saying that you can't make her go. It's her choice. She doesn't have to go. And he says it's not her choice when her choices involve putting us in thousands, plural, of dollars in the hole, hoodwinking other idiots, calling y'all idiots, saying Pam done invested all this money into this company that has yet to give us a profit. We're just further and further in the red. Margine doesn't get it. She's going back and forth with Carl, and he tells her to butt out. Pam then steps in and says she's capable of making money and being successful, and Carl needs to find a job. Go find a job, Carl, is what she says. Go find a job. In front of all these women, embarrassing your priesthood holder is not good. He leaves. Bill later tells Margie about the whole situation. They talk about Carl, and he tells her that he may agree with Carl because this is a money pit, that you're not making any money. He says Goji is a structure that preys on people that are weaker than you. The juice doesn't even have benefits because he's looked into some things. He says that you would have to become so much higher on the pyramid. You would have to actually be at the top in order to see a profit. He tells Margine that you have more faith, hope, and charity in your little finger than I have in my body. And I know that you mean well, but you open up yourself to people who might take advantage of it. Bill, that's you. Y'all took advantage of the situation, whether she was 16 or 18. You took advantage of this young girl who went from babysitting to being a wife, all because it benefited you and your kingdom. All because, as Don said, you wanted her. Margie goes to confront Michael about it, and she doesn't get anywhere because she's naive and he ropes her in. But she now lets Michael know, too, that Bill is on to him because she mentions that my husband said this and my husband said that. Not a good look. So Bill sits his wives down to tell them that, ceremonies are important to the family, and he wants a resealing, a recommitment. Nikki immediately looks bothered. She says, no way. Barb had a special day all to herself, and I want one too. I put, isn't it interesting how even though Nikki has such strong opinions when it comes to polygamy, that she herself doesn't want to adhere to some of the traditions and rules? Because why do you need this anyways? This isn't what she wants. She calls it baloney. Bill says, we won't do the resealing at the wedding. We'll do it over the weekend. Margie is excited about it. She says yes. Barb, however, isn't feeling it. She feels like they shouldn't do it because she no longer has, some of the same beliefs as them, basically. She doesn't come out and say it, but she says we haven't worked on our issues, which their issues are they don't have some of the same beliefs. Bill walks off because he's upset to salt the patio. Technically, she's right. Based on your belief system, you're already sealed for eternity, so it doesn't make sense to do it again. This goes back to me to, are you doing this for the right reasons? Barb says, we're already sealed. I don't want to be sealed again, but I do want to officiate the wedding. I'm a minister now because I filled out something on the internet. I don't understand why Barb needed to do this. It comes across as a competition, like were you led to be a minister? I don't know. So we later see Nikki and Bill as they head to the compound for that whole UEB discussion that I told you about. He presents the idea of Barb being the officiant. Nikki doesn't like it. She says that Barb should have come to her first. She points out that the only reason why Bill is even considering allowing her to officiate is because he doesn't want to lose Barb. And this is true. He doesn't want to lose Barb because he loves Barb. This is when we see the kids of Juniper Creek throwing away satellite dishes and smashing TVs and other electronics. And Nikki says something bad is happening. She's right. On to Lois and Frank. So Frank and Lois are at home when Frank slips and falls. I laughed when it happened because the sound that he makes and Lois being so oblivious to it and just focusing in on the television is funny. But I didn't know if that was part of her dementia or if that was just her ignoring Frank. She leaves him there on the floor. He wants her to call an ambulance, but she doesn't want to call one because she knows if they come and get him that they're going to be separated. So Bill ends up coming over there while he's on the compound to check on them, and he sees his father laying on the floor. He asks him, how long have you been laying here? And he says, since yesterday morning, meaning he's been there for over 24 hours on the floor. And you can tell he's been there for a while because all these random chicken bones from KFC surrounding him. So Bill goes to call the ambulance and Lois is like, no, don't. They'll separate us. But he calls anyway. She doesn't want them to be taken away. She tells him that she'll stay by his side no matter what. That's what she tells Frank. He's rushed to the hospital where Nikki is already at. Barb arrives, and rather than talking about Frank, Nikki is making it about herself. Frank is in the hospital. Barb has come because he's in surgery, and you over here trying to talk about the fact that Barb wants to officiate your wedding. So she says she doesn't get why Barb didn't come to her first. And Barb's like, okay, Nikki, how is Frank? And Nikki says, he has a femoral fracture. They're putting a plate in it. He'll be fine. Basically, like back to what I was saying. She says, Bill told me you want to marry us. You're trying to control my wedding day, and I resent it. I wish I didn't, Barb, but I do. And Barb says, I'm not trying to be in control of it. I just want to actually be a part of it. I want to be able to join the two of you together. Lois walks in, sees Barb, and she's pissed. Matter of fact, let's go here. Let's see what she says. Can y'all see this? Okay, turn up the volume. I might have to pause it in between so I don't get copywritten.
You are the reason we're here. There's no one to take care of us because there's no sister wives, because you called them and ran them all off.
Interesting how you're not upset at the fact that your husband did what he did to you. You're blaming Barb for running off the other wives, taking your anger out on him when your husband is the one who gave you an STD. The anger that you have directed towards Barb should be directed towards Frank, because Frank is the one that did this to you, not Barb. All Barb did was make sure that the other wives were aware of what was going on. So if they too had it, they could have gotten some type of antibiotics or something like that to help prevent something more severe from happening.
responsible thing. She brought shame upon us. Everyone knows about our VD now. No one remembers me as Orville Henriksen's beautiful daughter. I'll be remembered as VD lady.
Lois, I'm terribly sorry. You see things that...
I'll be remembered as VD lady. Okay, we continue.
I'm glad my son divorced you. Lois.
I'm glad my son divorced you. I know that had to hurt Barb. The moment that she said that, I felt bad for Barb because Barb looked legitimately hurt in that even Nikki, as you heard, can't believe that she said that. Barb kind of crumbles after that. You can hear the cry in her voice. You can see it in her eyes. And she politely excuses herself. Once again, showing that she is better than myself. Because I don't know. I'm lying. I was about to say I would have went off on Lois, but I respect my elders. I wouldn't have went off on Lois, but I wouldn't have allowed her to speak to me like that. Like, I'm going to respect my elders, but I wouldn't have stood by for that either. We see elsewhere that Senator Barnes is getting the visit from the feds, and I said trouble is coming. Barb may have left the hospital, but she comes back on later that night to relieve Ben. None of the other adults are there, but Ben is there. And here comes Barb taking the place of Bill to relieve Ben. She tells Lois she doesn't scare easily. She tells Lois that Frank is going to have physical therapy and he's going to need professional care. And this is when Lois wonders where she'll stay. And Barb knows that she doesn't want to stay with anyone but him. And she doesn't want to stay with them. So she's like, you're going to have to go somewhere. So we have found these places, and she pulls out some pamphlets. And this is Lois's biggest fear. So what we see her do is we see her knock the pamphlets to the ground because she wants no parts of this. And she knocks, I think, her purse or something out of Barb's hand, and she tells Barb to leave. But Barb, being the caring person that she is, sometimes shows that she's not going to leave. And she says, I'm not going to leave. I'm not going anywhere. Barb tells her, I know that this is a disappointment, that we have so much pain in life. But at this point, we care about you and we want you to be well taken care of. Whether you like it or not, this is how they're going to show her that they love her. It is actually a beautiful scene, but it doesn't last long because we see Lois in desperation enter Frank's room with a bunch of pills, and she attempts to unalive him by pouring those pills in his mouth. But he's not really swallowing them because he's, semi-conscious, and she's like, I'll be right behind you. We'll be together forever. We will be together forever. In other words, first him, then her. So the staff and Barb walk in at this moment, catching her as she's doing it. And that's the end of that scene. As they're prepping for the wedding, we see Marge and Nikki together, and Marge tells her that she does want the resealing, that she thought about it and she wants it. And Nikki says, you and Barb are just like vultures. My wedding is not a corpse to be picked out, to be picked at. And I was like, Nikki is a mess. The way that the actress that plays Nikki delivers the lines is so good because I often get irritated by Nikki, but then I see myself laughing at Nikki because Nikki is a hot mess. So Margie says that I didn't know the importance of the sealing when I was younger, and I don't want to be like Carl and Pam. And Nikki's like, okay, if I agree to this, I got one condition, which is that my name is the only name on the cake. And, you get a smile out of Margine, showing that Nikki does have a softer side. So we later see Bill bring up the whole topic of the sealing again, saying that Nikki was sealed by a false prophet. Margine was only 16, and he feels like they, and Barb finishes it, were sealed by a church of hypocrites. Barb says, okay, so apparently I either continue to believe in a sealing that means nothing to you anymore, or we get resealed in a church where I don't feel welcome, meaning Bill's church. She walks off, and Nikki says, don't push her. We need to respect what she wants to, which is true, they do, but they don't respect it, I don't think, later on. Margie says she'll be okay, but will she? I really, really want Barb to leave. Barb, go find Tommy. Go find him. So it's time for the wedding. Nikki looks beautiful. She's emotional as she gets ready, and the ladies watch. She thanks Barb. I'm guessing for the divorce. They hug, but there's something about Nikki. Like, I've seen tender sides of Nikki, and I think her crying was legitimate, but I don't know if that hug was. Cause Nikki does this thing where she smiles that it's like a sneaky Grinch smile, like a, and then there's times where she's smiling like she's genuinely just really, really happy. And that was a little bit of Grinch meets happiness going on there. But y'all tell me what you think. It's okay if you think otherwise. Bill is in a white tux as Nikki is coming out. I noticed that Nikki and Margene seem very happy. I don't know if I'm getting the same energy from the others. There's something about it that feels sad to me. Adeline is there. She tells her, I love you, Nicolette, and so did your father. She ends up walking Nikki down the aisle, and Ben lets her know that Bill went to go get her. I think that Bill is a jerk, but I think that he knew how much it meant to Nikki for her mother to be there. So it is sweet that he did that. He tells Nikki as she gets down to the end of the aisle that she looks beautiful. Barb is standing there marrying them. She does a good job. It's short, but it's sweet. I just can't help but notice how Barb, the way that Bill looks at Barb is just, there's passion there that I don't see with him and Nikki. Because even as she's talking about their family and joining these two together, he's looking at Barb the way I feel like he should be looking at Nikki. He does look at Nikki like he's happy, but it's just, I don't get that passion with the two of them. And it's not because of acting, because they're all good actors. I think it's because like he legitimately loves Barb. As Barb puts their hands into each other's hands, and she's reading off the various things, I can't help but think that this has to be tough for Barb because she didn't want to get a divorce in the first place. And now here she is, not only divorced, but she's joining together the woman that has infiltrated her marriage in many ways. They kiss, everyone claps, and Nikki has gotten what she wanted. So we're at the reception, and Barb is walking through all parts of the house downstairs, having the reception, picking up the plates, touching stuff with her hands after touching dirty plates. I didn't even see her, wash her hands before she grabbed those quiches. Sorry, it annoyed me. She's bringing out the food. She's telling the boys to stop jumping on the couch. She's doing all this crap, and I can't help but notice there's not a Henriksen adult in sight, right? None of the other adults are present. So she goes upstairs because she needs more napkins. And as she goes upstairs, she overhears Bill sealing himself to Nikki and Margene in a bedroom without her. In my opinion, this is betrayal. If he wasn't doing something messed up, why did he feel the need to do it in a bedroom? The fact that Bill was comfortable enough to do this without Barb is shocking. It's disrespectful. I felt insulted, and it's not even my belief. It's sneaky. And if I were Barb, I would have walked in that room and said, was it worth it? But Barb proves once again that she's a bigger person than me and that she has more control, because Barb just walks away. She does look visibly hurt. She does look like she's trying to reprocess it. The adults return downstairs, and this is when we see Margene looking on at Carlin and her teacher. She sees this is who she's into. This is who she's been texting. This is who I've been giving her an alibi for, not Don's son. Heather gets a call from her father. He tells her that she needs to go. He got a tip that something is going down. The bishop apparently has spoken to her father, and I'm sure that her father probably told the police. Barb looks at Bill, but there's no time for her to even deal with her emotions because there's a knock at the door, and she opens it to some police that are looking for her. They tell her that they'd like to question her about the knowledge in an open investigation of statutory rape. She walks into the cold, gets into the car, doesn't say anything to anybody, but looks behind her out the window as Bill sees her in the cop car being driven away. What a way to end the episode. If there's something that I left out that you guys want to talk about, feel free to put it down below. We are going to be wrapping this up very shortly. There will be 3 episodes this week. I think there's still 3 more episodes after this. So the following week, I'll finish up what's left of this because there's 3 of this week. No, yeah, because I have 3 more. That would be 4. Okay, do math. Yeah. So with that being said, I will be beginning my 5 Wives after this, along with something else. I haven't taken a look at it yet, but I got another suggestion, and I kind of want to do that too. We'll figure it out. Either way, my 5 Wives is after this. I watched the first episode and I already got a lot of opinions, so it should be good. I think for that one, I will be telling certain parts of it, but it's going to be much more kind of recappy the way I do some of my other things where it's not as detailed as The Big Love. But either way, we're going to talk about the important stuff, okay? Thank you guys so much. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're on the road to 3,000 and I hope to get there sooner than later. Until next time, do it with me now.